What is a gacha game? In a gacha game, players use in-game currency to gamble for in-game items. MiHoYo's Genshin Impact is a popular online gacha game that entices players with an open world full of exciting fantasy adventure. However, as a gacha game, it leverages the player base's love for its world to exploit as much money as possible from them. This creates a unique dynamic between the developers and the players, and I want to explore the unique responses from players within this dynamic. How does the presence of a gacha-style monetization system affect the way players respond to regular game mechanics? In Miguel Sicart and Douglas Wilson's paper, Now It's Personal, on abusive game design, the authors contrast conventional game design with their own concept of abusive game design. As Sicart and Wilson define it, abusive game design substitutes the system-centric conventional game design approach with one that establishes an uncomfortable dialogue directly between the player and designer. This dialogue exists by means of the game. The game becomes just a tool to enable the dialogue. Focus shifts from fun and flow to intentionality and friction, or abuse. The authors argue this allows for a special direct conversation between developer and player, and emphasize that it is the uniqueness of this conversation that makes abusive game design a worthwhile pursuit. If we look at Genshin's enormous network of exploitative design decisions in the abusive design lens, we can understand the different but alike unique relationship that it enables between the developer, MiHoYo, and its players. Abusive design is everywhere in Genshin. The gacha's harsh odds and harsher costs are definitionally unfair. To set up some context, Genshin's gacha system is called wishing, which costs primogems. When a player wishes for their desired character or item, they spend primogems, and have a tiny chance to receive the item. There are, however, many forms of what the community calls pity, that very slowly shift the odds in the player's favour. But they still allow up to 700 Australian dollars being spent before a single character is mathematically guaranteed to be pulled. $700 for each of the growing cast of 67 5-star characters. The majority of Genshin players are not paying this much. They instead rely on accumulating tiny freebies they receive from almost every part of the gameplay. The more they play the game, the more freebies they receive, and the more they're allowed to play the gacha. While at the same time, playing the game gets them more deeply invested in the world, characters, and consequently, the gacha in which those characters are obtained. The system is designed to force players to choose either grinding for tiny freebies to get primogems, or paying high prices for primogems. But how do players actually respond to that harsh choice? Using a set of 13 questions that targeted a player response to the gacha, I completed 21 in-game interviews with random players, recording their answers. In response to the question, how do you feel about MiHoYo? 2/3 of players gave a negative stance. They reported being disappointed with MiHoYo's greed, specifically that Genshin's freebie rewards are slowly dwindling over each major update, especially when comparing to the freebie rate of other gacha games. 9 of the participants, so 42% total, independently mentioned this topic without any prompting beyond the initial question. Additionally, an upcoming character was recently controversially redesigned. This too was brought up multiple times without coordination. So there were multiple identical talking points addressed directly to MiHoYo that were consistent across multiple separated interviewees. This illustrates a dynamic alike to the unique developer-player conversation that Sicart and Wilson assert abusive design enables, just on a much larger scale. The most revealing question was, do you ever play parts of the game that you don't enjoy just to receive primogems? 71% of participants said yes, and many of them named the same 2 parts of gameplay: events and world quests. These parts of the game are large but completely optional portions, if we disregard their primogem rewards. Moreover, even if we only counted the answers of players who have previously paid money in-game for primogems for this question, 75% of those players report that they still play large parts of the game that they don't enjoy, and these players are paying for that experience. Genshin uses features of abusive design to wring time and money out of their players. The system is designed to encourage players to make anti-fun choices, and the players confidently self-report as making those anti-fun choices. Unlike the small abusive games that Sicart and Wilson discuss, Genshin is too big for abusive design's anti-fun to simply result in unique experiences and interesting conclusions. Instead, in Genshin, players are pushed into dumping their time and money into a game without getting anything in return, except for impressive character inventories. As one user wrote, "Honestly, F MiHoYo, but God, I can't let go of this game." Despite its limited scope, this research shows that in response to a gacha, large portions of players lose the ability to choose the most fun option available to them, and start choosing the anti-fun option that lets them have one more chance to roll the gacha dice. I hope that by understanding how players engage with gachas better and sooner, we can actually take action to protect games and players from being a part of this kind of exploitation in the future.